Proud moment for Bharat and especially Bharat's Betis, ladies and gentlemen, because the SSLV-D2, that is a small satellite launch vehicle 2 that launched from Sriharikota within 15 minutes, set into orbit something that is landmark and historical. An 8-kilogram weighing satellite, communications satellite called Azadi Sat 2, the second version, which has now been set in orbit. It's a work of 750 school girls from across 75 schools. So their dreams are currently on top of the world, quite literally, ladies and gentlemen. What a proud moment. And Dr. Srimati Kesan of the Space Kids program had been driving this through the years of COVID, remotely instructing these kids across the length and breadth of our country, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Mumbai all the way up to Bengal and beyond in the northeast. Students have been involved. Let's try and go across to some of these students who are joining us, and I'm also hoping that Dr. Srimati Kesan will also join us. And plus, we also have a very, very surprise guest who's going to be joining us in a bit, and I'll tell you who it is. Namaste, everybody. Let me first ask you, how did it feel when they confirmed that the satellite is in orbit?
Very, very happy.
It was such a fabulous moment. I don't know, it was like, a rebirth for me, seriously. Absolutely a rebirth.
A rebirth. Let me ask the girls. In Ladol, Tanvi and all your friends, कैसा लगा आपको? आप हो गए कामयाब? कल कह रहे थे ना हम होंगे कामयाब.
Yes, really we are very, very, very happy.
Well, I have to tell you, Dr. Srimati Kesan, to all the children, we have somebody who's very special guest with us, who's very thrilled that this has happened. And he's taken time out to actually come to the studio, and he's sitting right beside me. And he is the minister involved for Earth Sciences, Space Technology, and it's all coming under his department. And,
oh my God! Jitendra ji!
Yes, Dr. Jitendra Singh is there with us.
Oh my God, that is huge. That is huge. Oh my God. So he's literally come there to speak to all my children and everybody.
Yes, he has. He's made this effort very, very specially. He's taken the time. I've been trying to get him to the studio for years to talk about a lot of things. But today he said, I'll come.
Yeah, you become the reason for me to make my first ever visit to this studio.
My God, thank you so much for this. This is really huge, really huge. I mean, truly means a lot for us after all the, hard work that we've put in. My God, sleepless nights and everything. I think this is real, I should say a cake for us.
So let's ask Dr. Jitendra, how did it feel, sir? Because you were there in August when, everything went well just till that last moment where the error happened in terms of placings, the speed error happened. So thereafter, they've built the satellite again and they put it out. So take us through this.
Yeah, Anand, if you ask me to laud it in a single or two sentences, I would say congratulations India, congratulations Space Kids India, congratulations ISRO, and many, many thanks Prime Minister Modi. Because I must confess, I have no hesitation saying it wouldn't have been possible at all. It was beyond our imagination if Prime Minister Modi had not unlocked the Space Department as he did about 3-4 years back and liberated it from the shackles of the past, the taboos of the past. And today, these 750 girls representing 75 schools of India, commemorating 75 years of independence, and also giving us a glimpse of what it is going to be in the next 25 years of Amrit Kal, is actually India on the ascent. So they have actually become, one of the earliest torch bearers of India on the ascent to 2047.
Can you just wave to all of them? They can all see you there on the screen to your left. Sir, they're all there. So they on the screen, they can see you there on the screen there. They can wave. That's Tanvi and that entire school students from Ladol in Gujarat and St. Francis School.
This way?
Yeah, can we see them? Yeah, you can. See, there they are. So, and on your screens. So that's the St. Francis. Do you know Dr. Jitendra Singh? He's waving to you. All the girls at St. Francis School, can you hear me?
You see, I think it's a miraculous transformation for this generation, because my generation at their age grew up singing songs like nursery rhymes like Chanda Mama Dur Ke. So it was beyond. Dr. Srimati would bear us out because we belong to the same times. So it's been, and the miraculous landmark in the India's space journey, because Sarabhai began this journey carrying launcher on the carriage of his bicycle. When USA and Soviet Union were on the verge of placing a human being on the surface of Earth, surface of Moon. And from there now we have come here. We are actually overtaken in more ways than one. So again, I think it's been a tremendous breakthrough. And do you know, Anand, now just within a span of 2 or 3 years, we have as many as 130 startups.
Wow.
And now this was a place
in space tech area.
Yes, this was a space which was forbidden. Nobody was allowed. The first time when I went there to Sriharikota, soon after this government came in, I think in June 2014, and Dr. Radhakrishnan was the chairman. So in the middle of night, he said, don't tell anybody, I'll take you to the place, the launching pad, because everybody is forbidden, even the scientists. So I went there, and then when I reached there, when I was standing with him, I said, Radha, I have tried to teach myself one new thing every day. What I learned today is to reach this spot, either one should be as eminent a scientist as you are, or somehow manage to become a minister in space. But then what was bothering me, why do so when, you know, when we are a part of a global world and ready to live up to the global benchmarks? And I'm glad Prime Minister Modi understood our sentiment, and he gave us this breakthrough, which could have happened many years ago, many decades ago. So I think once again, we all owe it to, I'm sure the children would also hear.
We have a surprise for you, sir. We have a school that is joining in from your region, Jammu, from the Jammu region.
हाँ बेटे बताइए
क्या करता है, उसका फंक्शन क्या है स्नैप सर्किट का?
ताकि अगली बार मैं और आनंद भी बना के चलाएंगे उसको.
हम भी कोशिश करेंगे.
You see, the remarkable feature is now Ganderbal is a place which has been ridden with militancy terrorism over the last 2-3 decades. And these children didn't have enough opportunities like children across the rest of the country to, you know, expose themselves to all kind of avenues which are available otherwise. But yeah, they have the aptitude to learn from the network, from the internet, and then develop this kind of.
जी, उस्मा आप बताएंगी, what did you work on?
I think there's audio.
No, I think we've just lost. There she is. She's back. Usma, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
जी sir, I'm listening.
Okay, so tell us, what did you do? Did you also work with this on the snap circuit? What does it do? Explain to us.
Sir, Insha worked on that.
What did you work on? आपने क्या किया? आपने क्या किया उस्मा?
इंशा आप सर को कुछ कहो उस सर्किट के बारे में.
ईशा से पूछे.
अच्छा, तो
I was not present there, sir.
आप नहीं थी. अच्छा, तो इंशा बताइए, आपने क्या घर पे किया, स्कूल में बनाया, कैसे बनाया, और फिर रिमोटली किया सब कोविड के टाइम में?
नो सर, एक्चुअली स्कूल के वेकेशन से पहले हमने वो बनाया था. जो हमारे सर थे हिलाल सर, उसने हमें बुलाया ATL लैब में. फिर वहां पे हमने पहले वो सर्किट बनाया था मोटोरोल, वो स्नैप सर्किट. फिर उसके बाद सर ने हमें बोला आप घर जाओ और घर में इसमें ट्राई करो, आप अगर आया तो ठीक है. एक्चुअली हम 8 स्टूडेंट्स हैं. हमें ज्यादा ATL लैब में जाने नहीं देते थे, मगर हमें बहुत शौक है इसमें जाने का, बहुत ज्यादा.
बेटे आपको इसमें आपको बेटे दिलचस्पी कैसे आई, शौक कैसे आया कि ये स्पेस का काम मैं भी करूं?
इसमें जाने का. फिर हमने सर को बोला था हमें और भी दीजिए. फिर हमारी वैकेशंस आ गई और ज्यादातर प्रेफर नहीं करते घर वाले इसमें जाने के लिए.
अभी घर वालों को धीरे धीरे आहिस्ता आहिस्ता समझ आएगी कि इसकी क्या अहमियत है.
यस सर.
आज तो हिंदुस्तान स्पेस टेक्नोलॉजी में सबसे आगे है दुनिया में.
आज आपने कहा, आज आपने अपने घर वालों को कहा, देखो जो मैंने जिस पे मैंने काम किया वो अभी चांद के पास है, धरती से ऊपर.
सर बोला.
अब क्या कह रहे हैं? अब तो समझ आ गई होगी उनको.
अभी तो समझ आ गई, मगर जो और भी स्टूडेंट्स हैं हमारे स्कूल में, उनको पेरेंट्स अलाउ नहीं करते हैं इनके लिए, मतलब पार्टिसिपेट और नहीं आते हैं हमारे बीच में. हम खाली 2 आते हैं.
अब आप आगे आ गए हैं, 2 आ गए हैं, 2 से वो 20 हो जाएगा, 20 से 200 हो जाएंगे, जल्दी हो जाएगा.
इंशाल्लाह.
What a proud moment, ladies and gentlemen. Do get on to news18.com or to the YouTube channel of CNN News 18 to watch the entire conversation. It went in about 20 minutes. We've just played a small portion here. But ISRO's first mission in 2023 and the SSLV sequel saw a strange coincidence. It was launched at 9:18 a.m. The same time its predecessor lifted off from the Satish Dhawan Space Center on the 7th of August 2022. Everything went right in August except for the fact that it could not deliver the due orbit due to an anomaly and flight path deviation. There was a sudden change in speed and the satellites were delivered in a path which then sent them into oblivion. But with the earlier SSLV not living up to expectations, corrective measures were put into its successor, and they have done it just within a few months. So August this happened, and February they've had a successful launch. So the SSLV-D2 has successfully put the 3 satellites into the intended orbit with precision. But what is exactly India's next-gen mini rocket all about? Let's try and understand that, ladies and gentlemen. Small satellite launch vehicle accommodates 3 satellites, boosts commercial space operations at low cost, low turnaround time, and they have launch on demand feasibility. Minimal launch infra is required. So there are a lot of nations for whom now space technology has become accessible, and India, as in the space market, has become a very, very cost effective yet very, very reliable alternative for these nations. Now coming to the specifics, the height is 34 meters of the SSLV rocket. 34 meters, diameter is of 2 meters. The lift-off mass is just about 120 tons. The configuration is on 3 propulsion stages. The target altitude is 450 kilometers. That's where the satellites have to be orbited. And there are 3 satellites on board. So in this case also there were 3 satellites on board. The EOS-7, the Janus, and of course the Azadi-Sat. The SSLV-D2 carry 3 satellites along with it. Like I said, the EOS-7 weighing about 156.3 kilograms and 2 others. The Janus-1 weighing about 11.5 kilograms. That's an American satellite and belonging to Antares of the US. 8.7 kilograms is the weight of the 3rd satellite. That's the Azadi-Sat. It belonged to Space Kids India. That is located out of Chennai. We just spoke to Dr. Srimati Kesan, who's heading Space Kids India, and they are the ones who worked with these 750 girl students from across the length and breadth of the country, over 75 schools. Now, the Azadi-Sat 2, what is this? This is developed by 750 girls from across India. Majority of the girls are between the age group of 14 to 17. Some of the girls we interacted with here on the right stand are just about 14-15 years old, ladies and gentlemen. They learned coding. They programmed sensors. The girls were guided by Space Kids India and of course their own instructors and teachers who back there helped them put it together. And it could not have been possible had the parents not encouraged these children who come from very, very remote corners of the country. So a big shout out to all of them. Then of course Niti Aayog was a partner of this project. Azadi-Sat 2 weighs about 8.7 kilograms. 75 femto experiments, selfie cameras, solid-state radiation sensor, long-range communication transponders, and satellite grows into 8 times its size in orbit. So what it does is it opens up like Batman's wings. That's what Dr. Kesan told us. In orbit, with the mission is an all-women concept promoting women's participation in STEM. And this year's UN theme is Women in Space. So it sends across a G20 message after reaching orbit, and the message is Namaste World from the G20 presidency, and that message has been sent and it's already been received. There are also songs which are put out there which have been composed, and the theme song for this entire exercise has been composed by DSP or Devi Sri Prasad. Let's move on, ladies and gentlemen, from that proud moment to one of the problem areas within our country. Now, on Thursday, on part 1 of the PFI hate plot and of course details of the charge sheet that was filed by the Maharashtra ATS, we told you how the banned outfit was plotting against Bharat and wanted to make an Islamic state by 2047. They want to change the very DNA of Bharat. Now, on Friday, CNN News 18 has accessed part 2 excerpts of the charge sheet filed by the Maharashtra Anti-Terror Squad against the PFI's hate plot. This entire charge sheet runs into more than 600 pages, and we've accessed and scoured through these pages to get you these details. Yesha has been pouring through it along with the rest of our team. So let's get you the details. The second part of the charge sheet reveals that during the investigation, the ATS recovered several videos from the accused about making bombs and plotting against the country. Several videos were recovered by Maharashtra ATS from the cell phone of the arrested accused, Mohammad Iqbal, Mohammad Ibrahim Khan. These are the two arrested accused during the investigation. In the digital data that was recovered, there was a video on how to use cloth to fill petrol in a glass bottle and then make a petrol bomb. In another video, women were shown wielding sticks at Social Democratic Party of India's event. There is also a video of Maulana Ahmad Nadwi appealing to people wherein he says that Muslims should unite against the Indian government and join the PFI. Police have found accused Sheikh Sadiq Ishaq Qureshi's mobile phone containing a video of a program organized by the PFI in which the young are being trained in badminton and karate. PFI Secretary Anis Ahmed's mobile video talks about going legal against the Supreme Court's decision regarding the Babri Masjid or regarding the Ram Janmabhoomi issue. ATS received, and I quote, MH expansion circular proposal, unquote, from the mobile phone of accused Mohammad Iqbal Khan, which mentioned the expansion of the organization across Maharashtra and creation of a separate team for the same, and how to strengthen the train that team. Texts recovered from the phones of the accused also speak about giving space in every mosque for the organization's work. The ATS has claimed these conspiracies were laid down by the PFI to turn India into an Islamic nation. It doesn't end there, ladies and gentlemen. The Popular Front of India also plotted to target temples. Now, there is, according to this chart sheet, there are documents that have been recovered from the mobile phone of the accused Iqbal Khan that contains old information related to temples and mosques in Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. The document actually claims that there are many places where there used to be a mosque but now a temple has been built. The ATS suspects that the accused may have used this information to try and create animosity between communities, that is Hindus and Muslims. Let's go across to former DGP Maharashtra, Praveen Dikshit ji, who's joining us. Praveen ji, namaste.
Namaste.
And Jai Hind, sir. My question to you, sir, how serious is the problem of the PFI, and are you of the opinion that not just the mothership, that's PFI, its affiliates who now claim to be delinked from the mothership, should they also be banned or seriously put under scrutiny?
Well, as you are aware, not only PFI, but 8 other organizations which were associated with the PFI, they were banned during the September 28 ban order issued by Government of India. Now, as you rightly said, it is not the end of it. It is not that only these 8 organizations, but there may be many more which might have changed their names, also have sprung up or are likely to come up in the future to avoid the ban or action by the security agencies. And therefore, it will not be enough to say that only banning PFI is the end of the matter. The story will continue, and whoever is working against the sovereignty of the Government of India, whoever is working for creating any disharmony among the various communities, whoever is plotting by means of either getting weapons, ammunition, or other means to overthrow the constitutionally elected government in India, they are subject to be banned, or they are likely to be taken legal action in the days to come as well. In fact, there are many persons who might be silently or quite closely cooperating with the activists of PFI, but still might have been spared. And I'm sure they might be having some other designs in their mind, but they will be also booked in the course of time.
But Praveenji, is this counter-terrorism, counter-radicalization, or even to try and nip certain problem areas in the bud, is this a challenge for law enforcers? How do you know that a certain person, because on the face of it may have no connection with the PFI, is not influenced by it or is not a covert member? How do you arrest, nab people who are highly radicalized and could pose a threat in the near future? Because the courts could turn around and say, Where is the proof against them? What is it, what act against humanity have they committed that you want to arrest them or take action against them?
Precisely. See, in fact, as you are aware,
Ji.
this radicalization of Muslim youth has been going on right from the ISIS movement, almost 6-7 years ago. And I am frankly speaking, the evidence is coming forward
Ji.
from the parents or from the Muslim community themselves. The parents
so
themselves are coming forward and saying that these persons who were once upon a time with them are no longer being felt as normal persons, but they are showing some abnormal signs. And many of them had actually fled to places where war was taking place, in places like Afghanistan, in places like Iraq and other areas. Some of them were shot dead. Some of them they came back, and after returning, they were arrested. The evidence, if you ask me,
Ji.
is more of a digital in nature. Number one, the whatever communications they have been doing secretly, that is very important.
Right.
By using social platforms.
Right.
Number two, their actions. Number three, the way in which they were making plans to collect funds.
Ji.
As you are aware,
Ji.
the more than 120 crores were collected in the past by PFI and their activists. And many of them have been nabbed. They were either in the form of donations or in the form of hawala activities, either legal or illegal activities. So there are multiple ways through which the evidence is forthcoming. But as I said, the main evidence is coming from their parents, their friends, their relatives in Muslim community themselves.
Right.
And they are bringing out the details of the abnormal activities of these radicalized youth.
So, do you have enough reason to believe there is overall large-scale rejection to this kind of radical mindset, and these number of people or cadre who are now coming out are just a handful? How best can communities now work together? Can the system and communities work together better? My final question, to ensure that this does not go beyond the numbers that we are seeing already.
Very true, very true. See, first of all, the enlightened persons among the Muslim community themselves have to come forward and be forthright in rejecting these kind of persons who are creating hatred, who are indulging in violence, and who want to establish the so-called Sharia rule by 2047 in India by overthrowing the constitutional governments within the country. Number two, if there is any such person who is radicalizing or indulging in these activities, the same needs to be not only reported to the police, but the community also should join hands in ensuring that these people are repeatedly given some sense of, I would say, understanding.
Right.
Because the way in which they are acting, or at least a few of them are being provoked, is not at all the one which is going to create harmony, or which is going to create peace even for the Muslims.
Right.
And the large number of Muslims are totally against such radicalized elements.
Right. And let's hope that remains the case, and there are more people who actually reject this than those who get influenced by this. Praveen Dikshit ji, thank you very, very much for your time and for your insights. Getting a move on here on the right stand, shifting focus to Pakistan now, where it's a major setback. So, contrary to earlier reports where there were indications that a settlement has been reached between the Pak government and the IMF, where the Pakistan government has agreed to the IMF conditions. Amidst this entire economic meltdown, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's government and the IMF have failed to reach an agreement, ladies and gentlemen. The deadlock comes after Pakistan government declined to cut the defense budget by 10 to 20% as committed in the earlier talks. The IMF then rejected Pakistan government's gradual approach proposal to expand taxation tariffs as well as revenue streams, saying everything has to be done upfront. The IMF further added that they can't trust Pakistan's commitments. Big comment there that has come through. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us all these inputs. Now, Pakistan Minister Ishaq Dar has told the mission chief that the Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, is actually in the United Kingdom on an official visit, and they have turned around and said, we need some time to discuss the defense budget with the Army Chief. That was the turning point where the IMF mission chief stopped the dialogue and decided to leave Pakistan without signing the staff level agreement. This is what sources have claimed while conveying the details to our investigations editor Manoj Gupta here at CNN News 18. The IMF has rejected the gradual approach proposal of Pakistan, saying everything has to be done upfront. According to a source in the finance ministry, everything was going smooth, but the finance minister Ishaq Dar requested IMF mission chief to remove the condition of cut in defense budget. The IMF discussed the draft of the memorandum for economic and financial policies just before the end of the scheduled review talks, leaving no room for the staff level agreement on the same day. Now, due to the severity of the economic crisis, everyone agreed, and every agreed measure will be tough on most Pakistanis. External funding is crucial for the $350 billion Pakistan economy facing a balance of payments crisis, with the country's foreign exchange reserves slipping below $3 billion, $2.9 billion at the moment. For the first time in 9 years, this has happened, and this happened on Thursday, reducing the import capacity to just 10 days. So, now what happens if Pakistan defaults? Step one would be they would be unable to repay commercial loans. That's the first step. Second thing, central bank will turn down debt repayment. Third, downgrading of the nation's credit rating will happen. And then there will be a decrease in dollar inflows, which will limit imports. Step 5, impact on economic output, skyrocketing inflation. So, further trouble. So, where does Pakistan spend its money? How the Pak army runs its ventures under charitable banners. This is another interesting aspect, ladies and gentlemen. Asakari Foundation, Fauji Foundation, Shaheen Foundation, Baharia Foundation. These are all on the surface welfare of service personnel. The real purpose is tax evasion. Ground reality, profits are transferred to retired army generals. And these retired army generals, so far, their pensions were all being shown as civil expenditure or civic expenditure and not part of the defense budget or defense expenditure. This happened at the time of President Musharraf. While Pak army enjoys a luxury lifestyle, it's still the people who have been betrayed. People in Pakistan are finding it difficult to even buy their daily need items, and here is why. The price of a litre of petrol today in Pakistan is 250 rupees nearly. Diesel is 262 rupees and 80 paisa per litre. Onion is at 235 rupees per kilogram. This is all Pakistani rupees. Tomato, 72 rupees per kilogram. Potato, 250 rupees per kilogram. Lemon, 340 rupees per kilogram. Nimbu, 340 rupees kilo hai. Garlic is 480 rupees per kilogram. Ginger, 550 rupees per kilogram. Apple, nearly 1400 rupees per kilogram. Banana is 240 rupees a dozen. Orange, 480 rupees for a dozen. Strawberries are 1000 rupees a kilogram. Pomegranate, 650 rupees per kilogram. Sugar, 97 rupees per kilogram. Wheat, 95 rupees per kilogram. Basmati rice, 464 rupees per kilogram. Chickpea lentils, yani chana dal, is 410 rupees per kilogram. Masoor dal or red lentils, 555 rupees per kilogram. Milk is 200 rupees per kilogram, and tea is 1488 rupees per kilogram. Prices are already skyrocketing, and now we get you more information. CNN News 18's mega exclusive. These are the inside details of the failed IMF-Pak agreement. Once again, our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us these details. The 10-day-long negotiations between IMF and Pakistan resulted in complete failure. Both made no success and no progress on the $1.1 billion immediate funds needed to save the nation from bankruptcy. Sources are telling CNN News 18 that the IMF clearly told Islamabad that 1. The political instability and more than 40% legislative assemblies are not in existence is a problem. Second, economic instability. where the highest inflation has hit Pakistan in the last 47 years, 27% in Jan 2023. Near to empty foreign exchange reserves. It's the election year, where the Election Commission needs billions of Pakistani rupees to arrange local and general elections. Unclear and vague economic policies which change and fail not on monthly but weekly basis. Pakistan needs to impose a mini budget on its taxpayers of 117 billion Pakistani rupees, which could lead to drastic results such as petrol and diesel non-availability. Many sectors of the industry are failing in Pakistan and have ceased to operate. Added burden of this mini budget can be a last nail in the coffin, as it's obvious from past experiences that IMF loan arrangements contribute to increased poverty. Huge problems for Pakistan. Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, with us. There is no tinka they want to hold on to. Sushant ji.
Anand, there is nothing left to hold on to. They will have to undertake the reforms which are necessary for their survival. Nothing that the IMF is asking them is something that the IMF has made out of thin air. The IMF has studied their economy and is asking them to do things which even common sense tells you that you have to do those things.
Right.
The IMF is not saying that you don't help the poor. All that the IMF is saying is that if you want to help the poor, please tell us where the money is going to be coming from. Now, if your fiscal situation, if the expenditure is far outstripping your revenue, and I think on your program the other day I told you that the federal government, its entire revenue is consumed only by debt servicing now. So the IMF is saying that you now need to start cutting your costs. And one of the costs, which probably, I don't know, maybe your investigations editor is better informed, but there are rumors that there have been, Pakistan has been asked whether they can start cutting down on defense expenditure.
Yes.
Now you have to cut those expenditures. So you have to do two things. You have to increase your revenue, which means additional taxation, which means reducing subsidies and stuff like that. And then you have to cut down on other expenditures which you are spending on running of the government. And until and unless you do that, your sums are simply not going to match, and you will continue to be caught up in a debt trap. So the IMF is saying, please help the poor. In fact, from whatever has come out in the Pakistani media, the IMF has actually asked them to raise this social welfare program from about 36,000 crores to about 40,000 crores.
40,000
right?
Yeah.
But the money has to come from somewhere. Where is the money going to come from? So I think the IMF is on the right track. The only surprising thing is that unlike the past, the IMF has simply refused to budge. It's dug in its heels.
Yes.
And that is also understandable because the Pakistanis have this proclivity that they'll sign on the dotted line.
Correct.
And then the moment the money comes, then they will blow it up. And they will tell the IMF, I'm very sorry, I could not help it, and now you need to give us more money. So the IMF has seen these games in the past, which is why they are now saying that no graded kind of implementation of these measures which you are supposed to take. They're all front loaded. That means that you have to take those measures before we enter into any agreement with you.
Right.
The time is running out. Even now, for example, it'll take a few days for them to, even if they're going to enter into a deal and Pakistan will agree to everything, it'll take a few days before that agreement is struck. Once the agreement is struck, it has to go to the next level, which is the board level. And then the money will be released. Now, when you are down to about $2.9 billion, and it's probably much lower because this $2.9 billion figure, which was released yesterday, Anand, is of last week.
Correct.
And I'm sure they bought some stuff over the last 7 days, and this figure has gone down. So if you're that precariously placed, and you have another 2-3 weeks to go before the IMF, enters into a deal with you, then you are probably, you're already running on fumes. So it's really touch and go from here on. And even if the IMF loan comes, it just gives you temporary relief for the next couple of months at best the next couple of months.
No, fair point. Fair point. But sadly, we are given to understand that the defense budget they refuse to cut. They refuse to cut the defense budget, and that's where Pindi's betrayal of Pakistan stands out. Sushantji, we got ground to cover, so I'm going to request you to stay on. Just an interesting development that's happened just on the same day when the IMF has walked out on any bailout or any deal with the Pakistanis. A review report from the United Kingdom is making headlines in India because while it talks of a threat that the United Kingdom and its people face, especially from radicalization, it has more or less confirmed the K2 threat that exists for Bharat too. And not just in Bharat, but overseas as well. The independent review called Prevent has also mentioned eco-terrorism, disruptive activities by the extreme left, and open support in the United Kingdom for the Hamas. The report talks about Kashmir and Khalistan, but before we break it down for you, let's also get you the highlights of this report. The UK report actually says Islamist terrorism is the deadliest threat in the United Kingdom. Islamist extremism is the primary threat. Majority of foiled plots Islamist in nature. 80% of the terror investigations are Islamist. 10% of police investigations are right-wing. Perpetrators driven by Islamic state ideology. Blasphemy narratives have Pakistan connect. Rhetoric from Pakistan is impacting UK Muslims. Pak rhetoric inflaming anti-India sentiment. Pro-Khalistan extremism threat potentially toxic. These are the highlights. Now, talking about the anti-India hate rhetoric in the United Kingdom, first the Kashmir issue. This is what the report details. Pak rhetoric inflaming anti-India hate about Kashmir. Pak clerics with United Kingdom following call for violence in Kashmir. UK Islamists significantly interested in the Kashmir issue. Islamists will seek to exploit Kashmir issue in the future. Terror convicts in the United Kingdom have fought in Kashmir in the past. Several terrorists from Kashmir joined the Al-Qaeda. From Leicester to Birmingham and Khalistan referendum, we've seen several anti-India incidents in the United Kingdom. But what exactly does the report say as far as the other aspect of K2, that is Khalistan? Pro-Khalistan extremism emerging from the United Kingdom Sikh communities. False narrative disseminated by pro-Khalistan groups. False narratives being spread about the United Kingdom and the Indian governments. Spread in misinformation on repression by state. Narratives glorify pro-Khalistani violence in India. Narratives praise violence overseas. Sushant Sareen ji stays on with us. Sushant ji, this report is as detailed as it can get. And will now establishments wake up?
I was pleasantly surprised to see this report because I think it's a very honest report. But I think the report talks about the kind of timidity with which Islamist extremism and Islamist violence is being handled in Britain. And there is this fear that, the moment you start attacking it or you start combating it, there will be cries of Islamophobia against people. So, a lot of people are really fearful of that. But at least this report comes out openly and talks about what is happening inside Britain, number one. Number two, I think it's very important to see how clueless people in the British government are, because the report talks about that you're trying to de-radicalize people, you're trying to prevent people from going into extremism, and the tool which you are using, you are funding organizations which are actually preaching radicalism, which are actually preaching anti-Semitism. Number three, they are focusing more on right-wing terrorism, and there is very little of it, rather than Islamist terrorism, which is a clear and present danger. But from our perspective, Anand, I think the report is extremely important, not just because it underlines the growing Khalistani propaganda out there and the kind of potential for violence that it holds. Because apart from the hate speech, if you look at the Khalistanis and many of these Islamists, most of them of Pakistani origin, there is utter hate speech against Hindus and against India, which is rampant, and the British ignore it. But so one is that hate speech part. The second is what you call the K2. The Pakistanis for the longest, the Pakistani ISI and the Pakistani government, they've actually been intimidating many people of Pakistani origin, Muslims of Pakistani origin, to actually participate in demonstrations, to participate in violence, And if you look at the prison figures in Britain, I think almost 30% or maybe even higher of the people in British prisons are Muslims, and most of them from Pakistan, which tells you how useless and how utterly, unemployable also these people are. That every time there's a demonstration, they get about 50 pounds or 100 pounds to come for those demonstrations outside the Indian High Commission. Most of these buggers are unemployed. They have now no work to do. So they come and they indulge in violence out there. Jail mein bhi dal denge, so they will get free food, I think.
Right.
That's the idea.
Right.
But so one is what the Pakistani government is doing. Second is, as the report highlights, the kind of poisonous propaganda which is being fed into the Muslim community in Britain is actually creating a situation of great tension, communal tension inside Britain. And we saw a manifestation of that in Leicester. And then, because the Khalistanis are also Pakistani puppets and Pakistani agents, they combine the Khalistanis with the Kashmiri diaspora or the POK diaspora. And that is creating a very, very toxic situation in Britain, especially against the Hindus and the Indian community out there. So I think the report highlights all of this. Unfortunately, I don't see the British government, because of its political correctness, because of its, as the report calls, timidity, really cracking down on this phenomena which is underway.
Because this is going to have a negative bearing even on the British society, and there have to be certain aspects which should be taken into cognizance, and this report should be tested on whether or not this happens on ground and what can be done, because it's going to harm UK society.
Anand, quickly, very quickly. But look at the way the kind of indoctrination of British society has taken place. Look at the BBC, for example. There's a lot of furor right now in Britain over this documentary which they have made on this ISIS girl, this Shamima Begum of Bangladeshi origin. And look at the kind of logic which is given to defend her and portray her as a victim, not as a terrorist. Now, when terrorists become victims, which is what Pakistan also tries to portray itself as, when terrorists become victims, you've lost the war on terror, right? So I think the problem is far more deep-seated than just the British government.
So clearly,
look at the BBC, for example. The BBC is a prime example of a jihadist media.
Well, this has been allowed over a period of time, so you cannot yank it off immediately. But if it comes into cognition, and if there is an honest report that's putting it out there, there will be certain people who will perhaps take cognizance of this. So Shanji, I have to move on, but I thank you for giving us some valuable insights and also putting matters into perspective here. Thank you very much. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to Operation Dost in Turkey and Syria, where the situation is only getting further dire with inclement weather. But there is one perhaps acceptance there that Bharat has stepped up to help, and it's being acknowledged and appreciated by the people of Turkey and Syria. News 18 is also on ground zero, but quickly bringing you up to speed on so far the estimate of the damage. The death toll has now ballooned to more than 21,500, and it is expected to mount further, sadly, ladies and gentlemen. 78,124 plus people are reportedly injured. The number of injured is only also going up, but the number of rescued has also further gone up. Ever since the world has pitched in, nearly 70 countries have come down to help. 380,000 plus have been shifted into shelters. 15,729 are in state guest houses. 11,165 evacuees are currently staying in hotels. 11,000 plus buildings have actually collapsed because of this massive quake that spread over 1.2 lakh square kilometers. 50,000 to 100,000 buildings are damaged. 79,000 personnel are currently involved. In fact, more than that, involved in search and rescue operations. More help is coming from across the world, but the earthquake in Turkey has moved the country by up to 3 meters. So it's not only changed the geographic or the map location, but it's going to change a lot of things. The last time the earthquake happened in Turkey in 1939, the speed of rotation also changed. That's the impact that it happened when these faults clashed with each other. The earthquake may have shifted the tectonic plates it sits on by up to 3 meters. That's what geologists are claiming. As per the reports, the country lies on major fault lines that border the Anatolian plate. Arabian plate and the Eurasian plate and is therefore prone to seismic activity. Country prone to seismic activity, Italian seismologist Dr. Carlo Doglioni has told the news site Italy 24 that as a result, Turkey could even have slipped by up to 5 to 6 meters compared to Syria. Meteorologists revealed that in an 140-mile, that's about 225-kilometer stretch of the fault between the Anatolian plate and the Arabian plate has actually ruptured. And as a rule of thumb, a magnitude of 6.5 to 6.9 event is associated with an offset of around 1 meter, whilst the largest known earthquake can involve offsets of 10 to 15 meters. This also means that along with the earthquake, there could be shifting of the rivers that flow through Turkey, there could be unseasonal rains, there could be further landslides, and we could also see an alteration in the entire topographical and geographical location of Turkey itself. But what's happened has happened. Now the aspect is to dig in, get as many people as possible out of the rubble with more than 5 days of this entire quake across Turkey and Syria. Now, Operation Dost, India is stepping up to Turkey. More than 4 more NDRF teams will be departing. 3 NDRF teams are already in Turkey. 151 rescuers engaged in rescue operations. A field hospital in the affected area has been set up with equipped with X-rays and ventilator facilities. 6 aircraft with relief goods have already touched down in Turkey. Over in Syria, 2 NDRF teams, 99 Jawans for rescue, 30,000 synthetic sleeping mattresses, 6,000 plus sleeping bags, 900 tarpaulin have been sent and also solar lanterns have been sent. Just a few minutes ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi tweeted, and I quote, "Our teams are working day and night as part of Operation Dost. They will keep giving their best to ensure maximum lives and property are saved. In this critical time, India stands firmly with the people of Turkey." That's where the quote ends. CNN News 18 is on ground zero, ladies and gentlemen. Siddhant Mishra is joining us from Gaziantep in Turkey. Siddhant, first up, what's the ground situation? You're making your way from Istanbul towards the affected sites, that is southern Turkey. It's a long journey. You're in Gaziantep or on the outskirts of it, en route. Tell us, what's the situation on ground?
We'll be talking about the success of Operation Dost. So this operation was launched by Indian government on a very day when Turkey witnessed earthquake, and in fact the images and pictures of devastation had started coming from Turkey. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, had ordered his team to send search and rescue teams to Turkey, at the same time also to make sure that whatever is needed, any sort of help and assistance should be provided to Turkey in these times. And this is perhaps the reason that today this Operation Dost has become really successful here on ground in Gaziantep. We are a few kilometers away from Gaziantep and it's freezing cold, followed by rains here in this one province where I'm reporting from. But Operation Dost is doing wonders here on ground in terms of the rescue works which are being carried out by 4 teams of NDRF. More than 150 Jawans are here. Till now we were getting to you the most factual, the most accurate and the most detailed coverage of the situation post the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. We are going to bring for our viewers the detailed ground reports from ground zero in Gaziantep. Stay tuned with CNN News 18.
We're going to take a very, very short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, it's not 1 but 2 Vande Bharats that have been gifted or flagged off in Maharashtra. Growth gets new gati. Stay with us.
Launch of SSLV-D2 Soars 07 mission ISRO now has a new credible member in its launch vehicle family. Congratulations to Team ISRO.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Beautiful launch of SSLV-D2 Soars 07 on a bright sunny morning.
प्रज्वलन और सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन SSLV-D2 प्रोमोचक यान का अपनी उद्दिष्ट कक्षा की ओर SSLV-D2 US7 मिशन.
We have confirmation from the Range Operations Director of the normal performance of Stage 1, which means close to 2,600 kilonewtons thrust. 87 tons of solid propellant burns for 115 seconds.
भारत के आज़ादी के अमृत महोत्सव को दर्शाता भारत का एक और महत्वपूर्ण मिशन दिन के उजाले में दूर तक दिखाई दे रहा है. बहुत से दर्शक आंखों देखा अनुभव लेने यहाँ उपस्थित हुए हैं. ये अपने आप में एक अविस्मरणीय अनुभव होता है. सभी की धड़कनें तेज.
Shato is in main auto. Plus 1 minute.
Apart from the launch-based radars, telemetry and tracking stations at Shar, Bangalore, Trivandrum are currently tracking.
जैसे जैसे यान ऊपर जा रहा है हम देख रहे हैं इसके सभी तंत्र सामान्य निष्पादन कर रहे हैं और यान निर्धारित दिशा की ओर अपने आप को निरंतरित करता हुआ आगे जा रहा है.
The flex nozzle of stage is imparting the pitch and yaw control functions. On your TV screens, the simulation of the flight, the separation of SS1 will follow the ignition of second stage.
कुछ ही क्षणों में द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन हो प्रथम चरण को पृथक कर दिया जाएगा.
Second stage ignited. First stage separated. 2C separated.
द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है और प्रथम चरण को सफलतापूर्वक पृथक कर दिया गया है.
The second stage of the rocket has commenced its operation and the first stage has been separated.
Performance normal.
Burn time for SS2 is 124 seconds. This rocket stage with carbon fiber motor case contains 7.7 tons of HTPB based solid propellant.
ऊष्मा कवच को पृथक कर दिया गया है. अब हम प्रमोचन से 177 सेकंड की दूरी पर आ चुके हैं. अभी ऊंचाई 182 किलोमीटर है तथा सापेक्ष गति 2.6 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड.
The closed loop guidance has been initiated and the payload fairing has been separated. The course correction of the launch vehicle takes place through a feedback loop.
Performance normal.
SS2 द्वितीय चरण सामान्य निष्पादन करता हुआ. SS2 चरण का प्रज्वलन पूर्ण होने के पश्चात 140 सेकेंड का कोस्ट फेज शुरू होगा. इस कोस्ट फेज में बिना किसी प्रज्वलन के प्राप्त संवेग से यान 423 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई प्राप्त करेगा.
Shar, Bangalore continue to track. Trivandrum and Port Blair stations have started to acquire the data.
द्वितीय चरण का प्रज्वलन काल समाप्त हो गया है तथा कोस्ट फेज जारी है. EOS-7 उपग्रह मुख्यतः ऐसे नेतभारों का प्रयोग कर रहा है जो कि माइक्रो सैटेलाइट बस से सुसंगत और भावी उपग्रहों के लिए उपयोगी नवीन तकनीकों का प्रदर्शन करेंगे. इसमें मिलीमीटर वेव ह्यूमिडिटी साउंडर तथा स्पेक्ट्रम मॉनिटरिंग जैसे पेलोड लगे हुए हैं. EOS-7 का कुल भार 156 kg है तथा इसका कार्यकाल 1 साल का निर्धारित किया गया है. कुछ ही क्षणों में द्वितीय चरण को यान से पृथक कर दिया जाएगा तथा तृतीय चरण का प्रज्वलन शुरू होगा.
Stage separated.
The third stage SS3
ignited.
Has commenced its operation.
जी हाँ, तृतीय चरण का प्रज्वलन शुरू हो चुका है। यह भी करीब 104 सेकंड तक चलकर शांत हो जाएगा। उसके बाद कोस्ट फेज की शुरुआत होगी। तृतीय चरण का प्रज्वलन सामान्य।
HTPB based solid propellant with a loading of 4.5 tons produces a vacuum thrust of 160 kilonewtons. The stage burns for 104 seconds. The current altitude is 449 kilometers.
इस चरण के अंत तक हम 450 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई तथा 7.24 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की सापेक्ष गति प्राप्त कर चुके होंगे। वर्तमान में हम 480 सेकंड आगे आ चुके हैं प्रमोचन से। यान की ऊंचाई 453 किलोमीटर तथा सापेक्ष गति 6.9 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड। तृतीय चरण का प्रज्वलन काल समाप्त हो चुका है तथा कोस्ट फेज जारी है।
Presently, the third stage has completed its operation,
Performance normal.
but has not yet been separated. It is a coast phase along with the spent stage mass, velocity trimming module and the satellites.
अभी यान का कोस्ट फेज जारी है। यान पूरी तरीके से निर्धारित पथ का अनुकरण करता हुआ अपनी उद्देश्य कक्षा की ओर बढ़ रहा है।
Two Vande Bharats were flagged off by Prime Minister Narendra Modi from Mumbai. The first one from Mumbai to Solapur, operational 6 days a week, and the departure will be from the Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus or CST at about 4:05 p.m. and it reaches Solapur just after 10:30 p.m. around 10:40 p.m. in the night. So travelling a distance of more than about 400 kilometers in 6.5 hours. So it's cut short the journey time by at least about an hour and a half, if not more. Then the next train is from Mumbai to Shirdi, operational 6 days a week, a departure from Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus at about 6:20 a.m. and arrival in Solapur at about 11:40 a.m. A total of about 340 plus kilometers covered in under 5.5 hours. So once again shaving off nearly about an hour, 60 to 90 minutes, whichever way you'd like to see, but also improving the quality of commute. This is what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to say.
आज का दिन भारतीय रेल के लिए विशेष रूप से मुंबई और महाराष्ट्र की आधुनिक कनेक्टिविटी के लिए बहुत बड़ा है। आज पहली बार एक साथ 2 वंदे भारत ट्रेनें शुरू हुई है। ये वंदे भारत ट्रेनें मुंबई और पुणे जैसे देश के आर्थिक सेंटर्स को हमारे आस्था के बड़े केंद्रों से जोड़ेंगी। इससे कॉलेज आने जाने वाले, ऑफिस और बिजनेस के लिए आने जाने वाले, किसानों और श्रद्धालुओं सभी को सुविधा होगी। ये महाराष्ट्र में पर्यटन और तीर्थ यात्रा को बहुत अधिक बढ़ावा देने वाली है।
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. Pakistan is in the economic doldrums. A tranche of over $1 billion that it was supposed to get from the IMF has not come through yet. The IMF team, which had visited Pakistan over the last few days, has left the country without any deal. They had one basic condition which has not been met, and that is to cut the defense budget by half. Why does a country like Pakistan, a small economy, deep in debt, why does a quarter of its GDP go to the defense budget? What will it take to rescue Pakistan?